Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the second day of December. Wow, 2024. Has this year gone fast for you? It has for me. And I just can't believe how quickly the time goes when we're having so much fun right now and unraveling things and honestly serving God every single day. I'm immediately impacted today as I am every day. People ask me lots of questions about what's going on and that sort of thing and want to know what to do next, Well, you know what? We're waiting for the return of Jesus Christ, and we shouldn't be doing anything any differently based on necessarily what we're seeing out there. Just live every day to the fullest, do what God tells you to do, and be at peace with that, because he'll carry the football into the end zone for us. We just have to keep walking, keep moving, and it'll be okay. So my first guest today is Troy Smocks, and he'll be giving us an update on his lawsuit against the corrupt United States government. Troy is a former January 6th, Washington, D.C. Gulag detainee. Mr. Smocks suffered 13 months and in 23 hours a day solitary confinement. Troy never entered the United States Capitol on January 6th, but was arrested as the first American casualty in the Biden regime's war on protected political speech. Today, Mr. Smocks spends much of his time in federal civil courtroom, where he is suing the corrupt United States government for $2.5 billion in retaliation to his tyrannical treatment by Washington's Department of Justice. And it really comes down to kidnapping. They kidnapped him. And I think this is really amazing in how we, the people, can take back our United States and do it without necessarily their permission, but leading the charge on our own right. And I think this is really inspiring. The second hour, we have Technocratic Communism with Vicky Davis. Chris Deal is going to be on, as well as Christina Holbrook and Melissa Fryzel. And with that, I'm going to welcome in Troy. Morning, Troy. How you doing?
Good morning, and good morning, America.
So glad to see you. I think you're just delightful, and I was really excited to have you on this morning. So what's going on out there in this craziness? It seems so crazy. And we talked a little bit beforehand, the chaos. What do you think is going to happen in the coming days? Because it seems like there's so much chaos out there, and people they're bouncing off the walls. You got people on both sides of everything lying their ever living tails off to create the chaos. And I just think we just need to keep our heads about us and be the calm in the storm.
Oh, I agree, and I believe what's going to happen in the next month or so is total chaos on the side of the left, which we've seen it in 2020. It's going to be a repeat of that. I believe that the Democrats, they never thought for 1 second that they would be called on the carpet, that they would have to answer for the things that they have done. And so they were very brazen about it. And now, kind of like Wile E. Coyote with the Road Runner, everything that he did kind of blew up on their face, the Acme rockets. And they're going to have to answer for that. Well, they don't want to answer for that. That's why you see so many of them saying, well, I'm going to leave the country. Well, they know and we know that leaving the country alone is not going to shield them from prosecution for what they did. And they'll be just extradited back, by the Justice Department, by the Trump Justice Department. So in order to curtail that, they need to start civil unrest in the United States. So when they run away, they can go to a separate country and claim political asylum. And that will prevent them from being brought back to the United States in the Trump years.
Yeah, that whole chaotic thing. I mean, when you look at all the nonsense that Antifa did and Black Lives Matter and all of this stuff that are paid provocateurs to create disturbances in our country. I mean, I really think they need to be designated as domestic terrorists, all of them. And the same thing with the cartels. I mean, they're not who they say they are. They're paid to do this by the deep state. And when you look at the amount of money coming across the border from the drugs that are coming into the country, if they spent a few $1 billion on paying people to fill these roles to be agents of destruction and such, it's a small price to pay for what they're actually bringing into the country. And shame on all of them. I think every single one of them needs to be prosecuted for not just the crimes that they're committed in overt or the usual way, but they need to be tried for treason, because these are crimes against the United States, crimes against humanity, and it's just a bunch of nonsense.
Oh, I agree. We need public prosecution and let the law do what the law do. If it calls for executions under the law, then I believe execution, public execution, should be the end game.
I think so too. I mean, you can't do the nonsense that they've done and just let it go, because they're going to do it again. They've proven that they have no conscience, no moral. They don't care about the people of the United States of America. They don't care about innocent lives. They will kill, hurt, and destroy without a backwards glance. And we can't allow that to happen, because more and more people are going to be hurt, and they're making bad choices. So we just say to everybody, make good choices, because the justice is coming, and you may have a very short period of time to actually turn yourself around. And so the warning is there: do with it what you may, but there's going to become a time where there's going to be justice, and everyone will be called accountable to what they've done. So
I believe that. I believe that. I've said it from the beginning. This is God's war, and they're on the wrong side. Your arms are too short to box with God. You're never going to win that fight. And they thought that their britches were just too big for them. So now you got to face the consequences.
yeah, a little humility on their part in the face of Almighty God would probably have done their lives a world of good. But everybody makes choices. So tell us what's going on with your case. First of all, maybe we should give a summary of kind of what your case is about to the new people who haven't seen you on BNN before, and then what's happening currently.
The case is about the federal government's encroachment on the sovereignty of the state and the state citizens. The Constitution lays out the rules as far as what the government can do and what the government can't do. And the Constitution gives the federal government plenary power to do anything they want in the District of Columbia and on what we call insular possessions and enclaves. An enclave is a parcel of land that's purchased by the federal government for needful buildings under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, like military reservations, federal buildings, federal courthouses. Those are what's called federal enclaves. And when you're on an enclave, the federal government has the same power on that enclave as it does in Washington.
As it does in what?
In Washington, D.C.
Okay.
But when the federal government comes off of those enclaves, it has no power at all. It's like a guppy in the ocean, and the sharks can gobble it up. It has no power. But the federal government believes that it has all the power in the world because it's the federal government. When they took civics out of our classrooms, that's the result of taking civics out of the classrooms. You get generations of people that really don't know what the balance of powers are. And what my lawsuit was about was when the federal government arrested me or seized my person in Texas, they broke the law. It was tantamount to kidnapping. You have no power to come down our streets with military-grade vehicles. You have no power to kick open our doors. You have no power to put your hands on us and to drag us off to drag us off to the government's property. Only state peace officers can arrest you. Only state peace officers can serve a warrant, no matter who issues that. And they're not state peace officers. They're nothing. They have no more power than the average citizen on the street to perform a citizen's arrest. If you witness a person committing a felony in your presence, you can arrest them. And then you have to call a peace officer to come get them. And the process starts from there. Well, the federal government believed that they were above the states. And that's simply not true. And so I filed a federal lawsuit, but it's a special lawsuit. It falls under the Federal Tort Claims Act. And under the Federal Tort Claims Act, the federal government waived its immunity. That's the only vehicle where you can sue the federal government where
what's the mechanism for that?
The first thing that you have to do is file what's called a Form 95, and that's where you put the federal government on notice. It's a claim, and you say you have wronged me, and you're liable for this. And then the federal government has 6 months to settle that claim or just ignore it. And the majority of the time, when you're just a regular person like us, the federal government kind of brushes it off, and they never respond to it. And then you take them into court, and then you have to get past the judges because these judges, they're not sitting on a bench for the benefit of the people. They're sitting on a bench for the benefit of the government. These judges do whatever they can to protect the government. So sometimes you have to file actions against the courts too.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did. Yeah, Judge Mazant, I had to file a judicial complaint against him because he's pro-government bias. And Sherman, Texas, is also a hub of racism. He's just a product of his environment. Yes.
Wow. So now what's the current, because you were arrested, so everybody knows, you were at J6, but you never got near the Capitol. And then they arrested you just for whatever. You were one of the first arrests that happened in order to create a chaos in the jail and such. Can you elaborate on that? And then we'll go into the current update on the case.
Okay. When I was arrested, for January 6th, it was for political speech, nothing more, nothing less. And
how could they do that for political speech? I mean, it's just like you said something they didn't like, and so they just grabbed you and said, we're going to follow you back to Texas, drag you out of your apartment because, well, we're the federal government, we know everything. And then, but it was just because they disagreed with your speech.
Right. I said that Donald Trump was the greatest president in the world. And
well, why haven't I been arrested? I've said that like every day on this show, just about, which is really funny. But
we'll get to the racial aspect of it in a bit. But they used me to take down Parler.
To take down what?
Parler.
Oh, see, yeah. If you talk more directly to the microphone, it's coming out better. There we go.
Parler was the conservative social media platform of the day. And as we know now, the Democrats, they want to destroy anything with social media platform. That was their first bout at censorship, mass censorship of conservative voices, is to get rid of Parler. And they used me in order to do it, a black face. They wanted, yes. And, so many African-American guys, they have faced the backlash, even from Obama, because they were trying to tell us how to vote and what we should think. And the black women, the upper echelon or the political elite, they came out to try to tell all the black guys, no, vote for Biden and Harris because you're just supposed to. Well, I was one of the first ones, in my race that said, you know what, screw you. This is about America. This is not about, racial ideology or anything like that. Well, of course, they couldn't have that spread. So I was one of the very first ones that they went after. And they put me in front of a black judge, a black female judge, who, she came after me as well, just like this past election cycle. They came after a lot of or degraded a lot of African American men for supporting Trump. Well, I was the first one that they came after for supporting Trump. And I'm still supporting Trump. So, up yours, as they would say.
Oh, that's funny. The greatest president in the history of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. Yeah, we can say it a million times. Let's see if they can take us all out. I don't think that's possible.
No, and the funny part, the ironic part is that, I said that, well, a lot of the people there, they were talking about coming back on the 19th before inauguration, with their weapons, because the Second Amendment gives you the right to do that. And that's what they said, that I had threats through interstate commerce. But then there was this guy out of Missouri, Friedland. He was running for the Senate. And he said, "Yeah, we're going to go rhino hunting." And he had shotguns, and he had a SWAT team behind him, and he was kicking in doors, and they never touched him.
He's a Fed. He's got to be a Fed in order for them not to touch him. I mean, they go after normal, everyday people, but the Feds they let go. I mean, look at Ray Epps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. I'm going to say it.
And in order to get back to Texas, I had to plead guilty to one count. And I knew as soon as I got back to Texas, I was going to fight them on that because what they were doing was illegal. And I told the judge right to her face in court. I said the only racism that I found since being here is coming from the Department of Justice itself. Well, she didn't like that too much. It's
What did
in the
she say?
yeah.
What did she say?
She said that, well, you're no Martin Luther King, and just a whole bunch of nonsense. And I never claimed to be Martin Luther King. I said we had the same ideology. That
Well,
everything.
that is just that's a crazy thing. So, what was that judge's name? Just so we can
Chutkin,
make sure. What was that?
Tanya Chutkin, and she
Tanya
was the same.
Sutton.
Yeah, she's the same judge that Donald Trump had. She hated him. She
She
hated
probably
that.
hates herself. So there you go.
Yeah, but I think she's going to have a whole lot to answer for when this is over.
Yeah. Wow. That's something. I
But
really hate
to go
these.
back to our topic, what I
Yeah.
had to do, I had to file a Federal Tort Claims Act against the federal government for kidnapping, and it's been pending. We've been fighting this thing since December 11th of 2022, so over 2 years now. And finally, this year, the state of Texas weighed in on it. I had two senators, great senators, Senator Hall and Senator Hughes, and I met them at a political function, and they wanted to know my story. And I told them, they said, "Well, you're the guy that we've been looking for," because they knew they were under the impression that the federal government, when they seized all these people from Texas, that they had done it the right way through extradition and everything like that. And when they found out that no, the federal government had not used the extradition process, then they said, "Okay, we're in it with you." And they wrote an amicus brief, to the district court on my behalf. And now they're passing legislation in order to curtail or curtain the federal government, put them back in their cages.
That's pretty exciting. So now the legislation's been written, and then where is your case right now as far as for prosecuting for your $2.5 billion you're suing them for?
Oh yeah, it's still pending. We have a motion for summary judgment in because the government, in their arrogance, admitted to everything. So there's no dispute. I said you did it. You admitted that you did it. Give me summary judgment. And the judge has just been kind of dragging his feet on it. And I believe that's the way he's telling the government, you need to settle this thing because I don't want to rule in his favor for $2.5 billion. Under the Federal Tort Claims Act, you can't, even if a jury finds in your favor, you can't get any more than you've asked for, and you can't get any less. So that kind of hog tie right there. And they're very, very arrogant. Well, we're not going to settle this thing. We're not going to settle it because they're looking for the judge to throw them a bone. And he was trying. We had to disqualify the magistrate as well because she authorized a search warrant, and she's not constitutionally or statutorily authorized to do that. She can only issue a search warrant on a federal enclave or in D.C. She can't issue a federal search warrant in Texas per se, and she did. And then they put her on my civil case and said, she's part of this. She's got to get the heck up out of here. And so we've been fighting.
Yeah, well, I think you do a really great job of holding them accountable. Are you having fun with this? It sounds like you're really having fun with this.
Yes, we had a little buffering there, but yeah, we try to hold them accountable, and the nation has to hold them accountable. You know, if you're afraid to fight your government, then something's wrong. The government should be afraid to fight you. And the media, the legacy media, these guys are dumb as sticks. I had a potential interview about 2 weeks ago, and the reporter says, "Well, you know, you were arrested for threatening the government." And I said, "Yeah, well, we are constitutionally allowed to threaten the government. You know, our founding documents state when any government becomes destructive of these things, that it's the right of the people to alter or to abolish it." Now, I've been around quite a long time, and I've read everything from the Bible to Star Trek. And this is what I know for sure. No tyrannical government has ever given up power peacefully. It's always come down to brute force. So our founding documents not only give us the right to threaten the government, but it gives us the right to carry out those threats against the federal government. So there's no such thing as threatening the federal government. We have the constitutional right to do so. And
That,
that
that
he just
yeah,
dropped it.
they've got a problem with that, don't they?
They have a problem with the Constitution.
Yeah, they sure do. That's why they keep trying to change it. Like the Constitution of States, that there's an organization pushing that, and I'm like, we don't have enough morality and integrity that the people that would go in there to change or hack up the Constitution, we would be all over until we get some, some people with some backbone that are willing to do the right thing. To touch that Constitution would be the death of everything good in the United States. They would butcher it to death because that's our protection right now. So now your dad was an attorney, correct?
Correct.
And so when you started writing your lawsuit, your case, because this is a pro se case, correct?
Correct.
How did you begin that? And how did you really begin writing that and putting this case together? Because it's a work of art. Okay. It is a work of art what you've done. And when I looked at it and went over it, I was like, you should be in a position of being an attorney general, or you know what I mean? It's like somebody who actually knows the law, or a person of influence, because not only are you incredibly knowledgeable, the writing you've done is just really creative and wonderful. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, well, my first experience with the law, my dad, he took me to the Hennepin County Law Library in Minnesota, and he says, "What do you see?" I said, "A bunch of books." And he said, "What's in those books?" Well, I'm like in the sixth grade. I'm like, "I don't know." So he pulls it down and he opens it up, and he says, "Each one of these books represents a case, and each one of these cases represents a person who thought they were right and a person who knew they were right." I never forgot that. And he says there's a difference between a lawyer and an attorney. A lawyer is someone who's astute in the law. You know, he knows the law like the back of his hand. An attorney is someone who goes to a law school, and when he finishes, he joins the club, the bar association. He says no one will tell you this, but to practice law in the United States for a profession is actually illegal. It violates the 13th Amendment. And that's why I never wanted to be a lawyer, because you can't be true to the Constitution and violate it at the same time. And those members of the bar, the British accredited registry, they're violating the Constitution.
Violates the titles of nobility, as well as it's like all sorts of things. And the problem is that they exist to protect each other. It's almost a cartel in and of itself. And they're working for the judges, and the judges are placed by Soros and some of the other people that have funded their campaigns and such. So this is like high level organized crime.
Yes, and a lot of the attorneys and the judges, because when the country was founded, practicing law for a living was unlawful because you were a part of the crown, so you weren't allowed to do that. It wasn't until the erection of all of these law schools that their club actually formulated. And as my dad said years ago, and it's still true today, there's no such creature as a law license. You have a certificate from the bar to be a part of their club. And there's also a difference between um, assistance and representation. In a criminal case, you have to be in court. So, and you have to prepare your case. So, if you're a criminal defendant, you are constitutionally allowed the assistance of counsel. So, a lawyer can assist you, but he can't represent you. In a civil case, you don't have to be in court. You can send a representative. So, a lawyer or an attorney can represent you in civil court, but he can only assist you in criminal court. And there's a distinction there. But most of these guys walking around with suits, they'll never tell you.
Did they even know it? Or, I mean, have they been so brainwashed that they don't even know that the law as they allege that they do?
No, they're actually very stupid. These United States attorneys are probably some of the dumbest people on planet Earth. We're fighting a sovereignty case, and this United States attorney, the cream of the crop, this idiot didn't know what a federal enclave was. He had no idea. And I asked the judge, I'm hard pressed to believe that this guy, whose job is to protect the sovereignty of the United States without encroaching on the sovereignty of the state, and he doesn't know what a federal enclave is. Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Well, and the other thing is that I've seen, so like, for example, in the state of Michigan, it doesn't require you to have an attorney. It says counsel. And so that is left up to interpretation. But I threw that out there to someone I don't know, a few months ago. They were talking about the fact that, you have to have an attorney. I said, and you got to be careful of that. I said, not in Michigan, you don't. It says you have the right to counsel. Well, what does that mean? But I think that we all truly need to be more educated on how the system works so that we can represent ourselves, because the amount of money that these attorneys are making off of people's pain and suffering is obscene. Absolutely obscene. And they will run the clock out in order to either make or break a case or to steer it just based on that. They're all in cahoots with the prosecutors and everything else to decide what's actually getting seen. In the state of Michigan, I believe we have a 98% cases that are actually brought forward are ones that involve a money judgment, and they take like 18% of that money judgment to go into the retirement accounts.
Yeah, there's so much corrupt money.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lawyers, they can cure cancer when they're trying to solicit your money. And as soon as they get it, it's their way or no way. Or you're going to have to get another attorney when they already have your money. For the January 6th, the minute they picked up the phone, they were $100,000. $100,000. When have you ever seen a lawyer ask for $100,000 for a misdemeanor? It's just outrageous. And the federal government was hiring mostly Democratic public defenders or Democratic lawyers. So it was like their payday. They were going to go in there and offer you up to the wolves, and they were going to get 3 or 4 clients, which tantamount to about $200,000 a piece for each lawyer. And you were going to go to jail, and the lawyers were going to go on and turn in their voucher and say, hey, when can we get another insurrection? This one paid off pretty good. It's really mind-boggling what our
it's mind-boggling that people would even have the audacity to make money off of other people's pain and suffering to the degree that they're doing this. It's not just the attorneys; the politicians are doing it. The corporate structure, the economic structure that's going on out there. I mean, this is just evil from top to bottom. So I don't know. I'm really proud of you and the fact that you're fighting this and you're actually winning, which is kind of cool.
Well, the reason that I'm winning is because I'm relying on law and not emotion. A lot of the attorneys and a lot of these judges, they rely on the good old boy network or what I believe, but the law in the Supreme Court has made it clear. And all you have to do is go back and you got to find the law and then hold them accountable to enforcing that law. And you have a lot of advocate judges that legislate from the bench when they put the black robe on. Hey, I'm God. I don't care what the Supreme Court says, you know, because they know the Supreme Court is only going to accept a very few cases. And you have so many lazy judges at the appellate court level that it's a cartel to protect each other. If you're not a big voice, you don't have one of their big lawyer voice players in the game, they try to run all over you and give you the runaround. You just have to stick with it. And every time they come up with it, you hit them with the law that contradicts what they say, and then you make it public. You let
Yeah.
people know, hey, this judge here's an eggplant. He's cheating, and that's what I had to do. I had to let everybody know that this judge is cheating and make it public and put it in, the court filing that he's cheating. And then once they start investigating him, he started acting right.
Did you base and put a lot of case law into your lawsuit, or is it what was your tactic on that?
Well, when you file your complaint, it's just the basics. You know, this is who I am. This is who they are. These are the facts of the case, and this is what they did that created causation or liability. And then the next step is that they're served and they have to respond to that. No, we didn't do it because of X, Y, and Z. Well, these idiots said, yes, we did do it. Yeah, we did it. And we're proud of doing it. Well, then they got a taste of the law, what the Supreme Court and what the statute, and they found themselves painted in a corner and couldn't get out. Like a pit bull, you just grab them and keep shaking them. I'm not going to let you go. I got you now.
That's very cool. So what's the next steps right now? What are you expecting going forward right now?
The next step, I believe that once Trump takes office and he has a new attorney general, that he's going to order the attorney general is going to be he's going to order the Justice Department to settle the case because Trump has a similar case for them raiding his place in Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, and going through his wife's underwear drawer and everything like that. So he has a very similar case to mine. And Florida law is similar to Texas law. And so, the Trump administration can't sue the federal government on one end and defend them on the other. It doesn't work like that. And he's now because Hunter Biden's been pardoned. Now Trump
Yeah,
says,
what's up with this? This is like that came through this weekend. I'm like, are you kidding me?
yeah, yeah. Well, that's Biden's kid, and Biden's kid knows where all the bodies are buried, so they really don't want him talking. So, just sit cool, kid. You're not gonna go. You're not gonna spend one day in prison, and I'm gonna pardon you. And that's what happened to keep the family secret a family secret. And believe me, their family extends to the Obamas, Pelosi, everything.
They're all tied in, a bunch of starting with a chief kid sniffer on the top there and going right down to, his kid who is just the things that he was involved in, just absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. So in the coming days, what else do you expect that we're going to see with the agents of chaos out there? Do you have any insight in that?
I believe that we're gonna see Antifa riled up. I believe that Joe Biden is going to try to unleash the UN peacekeepers that are on our soil, on American people. he's been smuggling them in to the southern border for over a year now. They have staging areas all over the United States, mainly in the blue states. They have staging areas. We know that. And so there has to be an event, and then Joe Biden is going to call out the UN peacekeepers, and we're going to have chaos on American soil while they escape. They believe by giving Ukraine those missiles and firing them off into Russia that Russia will retaliate, and then we will be in World War III, and somehow Joe Biden would be replaced by Kamala Harris, and the end result would still be the same. They would have Harris as president. That didn't work either. Those Acme rockets, they just never worked.
Well, I think it's going to be certainly interesting for going forward. There's no doubt about that. And I keep telling people, be prepared, and that's not just physical preparedness; it's mental preparedness for things to change radically. Because when people experience, human beings, when we experience change, we go through a bit of grief, no matter what, even if it changes for the better. But if things change for the worse for a little while, which I think sometimes, you got to be able to clean house in order to rebuild. And right now, the house is rotted and full of mold, and it is absolutely just despicable. There's really no way to build on a crumbling foundation. We've got to go back to the bedrock of what the United States was all about, and run the country as it should be run in a lawful manner. And to your point, we're not a country of personalities of men, women, whatever you want to say, but we're a country of laws, and we need to go back to the laws, not the ones that they keep adding to the stack. The Bible started out with 10 commandments. God gave us 10 commandments, but that wasn't good enough. So the Jews ended up adding 648 more commands or laws, and they all contradict themselves. And that's just one example of how people like to overstep the sovereignty of God, and how politicians and the people who have tried to take advantage of the United States have overstepped. They've usurped the original intention of the United States. It's a human failing.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And a lot of our people have stepped back and allowed us.
So here's the one of those questions that really needs to be asked. Whose fault really is this? Do we blame those people who have evil intentions? Do we blame the politician? It sounds like that's kind of goes back to the original sin, what Eve did. She was blaming everybody else, and then Adam picked up the torch and started blaming everybody else except for themselves. And I guess the side of this where I'm falling on is whose fault it is. It's all of our faults. We got handed a bad hand, because this started way before any of us were alive. We didn't see it coming, because we were part of the system, and we were born into the system, and they did a real good job of obfuscating the truth on what was around us. But now we're going to have to step forward and be the generation that rights this and stands with truth and honor and integrity and doing the right thing, even if there's a personal cost to it.
I agree. I definitely agree. I believe that the fault really falls on the American people, because we went to sleep and we gave the keys to the house to the kids, and the kids just kind of tore up the house, and now we have to come back and fight the kids for the house because they believe it's their house now. And it's going to be a tough one, but we got the right people, I think, in office right now to do it.
I'm kind of excited about some of the picks that President Trump's made. So, like, my top two on the list that I'm excited about is Tom Homan and and Kash Patel. I absolutely freaking love these guys, and they're going to go in there and go boss level on what needs to be done, which is kind of exciting to watch this. and see exactly the direction that this is going to go. But talk about an exciting time to be alive. This is going to be where we see potentially the whole house of cards being absolutely torn down. They've got to be so panicked about this, the ones that have done wrong, which it's amazing. But let's go back to the American people, because we've gotten in a habit of being part of this nanny state and looking for personal handouts for whatever it is. And, it's being a woman, I don't want to hear any more from snowflakes out there that sit there and feel sorry for themselves for being women, because it's just an excuse for being weak and expecting somebody else to take care of us. And that's not okay. When we come forward as an adult, we need to be taking care of ourselves and acting as the servants that God would expect us to be, because we're guests here on this planet. This is his sandbox, his rules. And we're supposed to be here serving as children of God. We're supposed to be here serving him in this world, this very, very hurting, wrong, evil world that evils take. We need to be the light, not to be the people that are standing out there with their freaking hands out, expecting somebody to take care of us. That's not part of the equation. So going back to, blaming the American people, which, yes, it is our fault. We've got to look at this as, what are we willing to give, not what do we want to take. And whenever we hear somebody that's looking for money or favor or special status or protected classes of people, which is a bunch of crap, we got to stop this, and I mean, stop it dead in its tracks.
I agree. And, one of the ways to stop this, you got to cut the head off the snake. And right now, the head of the snake is corrupt politicians. We have to get rid of these corrupt politicians. And I believe that the reason that Trump won by a landslide, this was the American people's referendum on corruption. We're just tired of it. And, all of these elitists, you throw a football or you catch a football or you dribble a basketball. Okay, you're good with a piece of leather. That don't mean we want to hear from you. That doesn't mean that, that you're leading society, because the NBA or the NFL pays you a lot of money to dribble a basketball. And the reason they pay you a lot of money is because dumb Americans pay a lot of money to see you dribble that basketball. While the neurosurgeons are struggling with student loans, this guy who dribbles the basketball is making way more than the neurosurgeon. I think America has its priorities really messed up.
Well, and look at the politicians, how much money the politicians make, but our law enforcement, the sheriffs especially, and the peacekeepers, when you look at what the dynamics in the state of Michigan is, while the unionized police force, which is a state police, which should never ever have grown to what it is right now, has basically usurped the sheriffs, which is the only constitutional law enforcement office that is really upheld by the Constitution. And the people can hold them accountable by voting them out. If you get a corrupt sheriff and such, they can vote them out. They can make the change. We are stuck with these unionized law enforcement forces that basically boots on the ground to come in with the guns a-blazing on us and with no respect to the people of the United States. I'm pretty well done with this. And you can see what they do when they're running out of their budget, because it's all based on money. You'll see all the cops in the median, and they're giving out speeding tickets like there's no tomorrow, because they got to get their time in, and they're and that sort of thing. This is something we have to address. We can't say, oh, we love our law enforcement. Well, we do, but when the structure's wrong, the structure's wrong. And we can't give them a protected status either. People need to be held accountable for their actions. And I don't care what race, gender, religion, whatever anybody wants it is an excuse for bad behavior. This is crap.
Yeah, and it's ironic that you say that, because so many people, when they're speaking of law enforcement, and they will say,
or the military, for that matter. The military is another one. And then all you got to do is look at Millie and know that this is not exactly as in the order it needs to be. But I'm sorry, go ahead, please continue.
Yes, the law enforcement is when something happens, they will always say, "Well, he did this to one of ours, not to a fellow citizen who works for law enforcement. They did to one of ours." So it's them against us, and it shouldn't be that.
Well, they cover for each other, though. You can even see that in I know a couple of people in the sheriff's, let's just say that realm, and even there you'll see it. You'll see it once in a while. We only really have two constitutional sheriffs in the state of Michigan that are worth that are worth anything. The rest of them are just go along to get along, try to make a difference in our community, not holding the prosecutors accountable for doing their jobs and such. And it's really a shame that people have fallen into this sheep mentality no matter where they are, instead of bucking the system and actually standing up and holding them, no matter what title or what they affiliate with or whatever. We've got to hold people accountable.
We do, and we have to, as we would say in the military, you got to put on a pair because as myself and a lot of the Jan Sixers, when we were going through this, the so-called Republicans, they're turned to cowards. They ran and hide. Nobody stepped out to say, you know what, this is wrong. Nobody helped us out financially. There's a lot of us that are homeless or on the brink of being homeless because the Republicans, they put their hands in their pockets and hid behind the tree. And
Gutless.
yeah, I'm not going to support them because of what they did. Well, let's look at this. You know that the news media is biased and it's corrupt. So why are you believing anything that the news media tell you? Look at your own eyes. And now that Trump is unveiling all of this corruption, everybody's looking at like, oh yeah, yeah, they were corrupt. Well, they were corrupt 2 years ago. They were corrupt 3 years ago. When you sit there and you watch as they, went around the country rounding people up, you did nothing. Nothing at all. You didn't help us financially. There's not one January 6er that should have had to have a public defender. When you have all of these conservatives out here with businesses and stuff, they should have, each one of these conservatives should have adopted a January 6er and said, okay, I got your legal fees. I got you. We're going to get you the best. They're sending their best. We're going to get you the best. But they didn't do that. Even now, you know, um, I've been through this fight for 2 years all by myself, pretty much. Nobody or very, very few people have stepped up and say, you know what, we support you and we're going to put our money behind you. We're going to push this. Nobody. I just kind of bowed my head and said, okay, God, I guess it's just me and you, and let's do this.
Had the same thing in the governor's race here in Michigan. It's like, the abysmal amount of support, because what's happening, not just in our politicians, but in people, they want to get the news cycle ahead of making the decision, instead of being an innovator, somebody who is first to make the change. It's a following mentality. That's exactly what you're talking about with the politicians. They waited until the news cycle made it okay for them in public perception to jump on and help the J6ers. This is crap, and it's cowardice. They should have been the one leading the charges, but we don't have any leaders out there. There really are no leaders who will sit up there and say, all right, hold the phone. I'm willing to take flack for this because this is wrong, and this is why. They shut up. They go along to get along because they don't want those dollars to dry up. They don't want their supporters to go away for fear that they might say something unpopular. Oh no.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have so many cowards right now. Um, I just have to call them what they are. They're cowards. And there's
They're
a
cowards.
distinction between Republicans and MAGA. The
Say that
Republicans are
again.
cowards. There's a distinction between Republicans and MAGA.
Agreed.
MAGA is grassroots, and we believe that kind of the Al Capone way. If you hit us with a stick, we're going to hit you with two bricks. And Republicans, if you hit them with a stick, they're going to cower down and go behind a tree and say, "Okay, don't hit me again."
No, they'll say, hit me again if it brings me money.
Yeah.
Please hit me again with the stick, because I get paid every time I get hit with a stick. That's
Yeah, that's crazy, but yeah, it's true.
yeah, it was so disturbing to see how the Republican Party really didn't back President Trump until MAGA stepped up and absolutely started backing him, and then it became popular. Then it was okay for them to jump on. That's not a leader, and I'm still not seeing the go that needs to happen out there, in a sizable way. To your point, there should have been more people that jumped on your case, that have jumped on so many people's cases, that really it's just really a little bit sad. So
Yes, ma'am, it is. I just recognized a long time ago that these people are cowards. And when Trump was shot in the face in Pennsylvania, the Republicans, they're partially to blame for that, because they stood on the sidelines and let him do everything leading up to that. There was no pushback in any way. And so it just emboldened the Democrats to do more and more and more. And, by the grace of God, he survived that. But it sure wasn't by the grace of the help of the Republicans, because they're cowards. Never identify yourself as a Republican. MAGA, yes, Republican, no.
I like American. That's the title that I go through. It's like, I'm an American, and the Uniparty is still strong. They're trying to revive it. There's a lot of good people that are trying to work within the system. But the problem is that it's just like with the precinct delegates. What I heard so many times is that they do things for the precinct delegates just to make them feel good, so that they'll vote the way that the people in the upper echelons of the party want them to do. It's very manipulative, and it's backwards. But it's unfortunate, and people really need to take a hard look on what cult, because it very much functions like a cult that they're involved in. But it's a part of a waking up of a very unfortunately brainwashed bunch of people in our country. So here's the Gibson Go account. Thought I would put that up there.
Oh, yes, there's the update.
That's very cool. Very, very cool. So you're getting some help there. So that's a really good thing.
Yeah, we got a little help when it started out, and after I arrived home and started to sue, the help just kind of dwindled away, kind of dissipated. But hopefully, this will stir America into getting off this duffel bag and getting in this fight, because for a long time there's been a saying, freedom ain't free. Well, this is your chance. This is your opportunity. You have to fight for your freedom. Because, we dodged that bullet. We dodged that Harris bullet.
What was your military service, Troy?
I was 11 Bravo, and until that's infantry, until I went to selection.
Can you talk closer to the microphone? I keep losing you here.
Okay, is that better?
That's better. Yeah,
Okay.
You need to put it right there.
Okay. I was 11 Bravo. That's military infantry, and until I went selected. Yeah, I went to the selections in years ago. It was 2006 that I went through selections for special forces.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and I took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And right now, we have a lot of domestic enemies,
Yeah.
and a lot of Americans. You just have to do critical thinking. Let me ask you something, Miss Donna. What do you think about that Bagram Air Force Base debacle?
What do I think about it? I think that was absolutely a horrifically handled situation, and we literally armed people that are going to use those things against us. And so not only was it botched, I think it was intentional to create more chaos. I think that a mistake that big is something that's very, very convenient to say that it was a mistake, but I don't believe it was a mistake. I think it was an intentional It was an intentional subversion of the United States. It was, it should be more than investigated. It should be prosecuted. And everyone that was involved in that is traitors to the United States of America. How's that?
I agree that that they are traitors, but there's some of us, we have a little different perspective on it.
Okay.
Everyone knows that Joe Biden's a crook and he's been in China's pocket forever. But what if we didn't exactly abandon the Air Force Base? What if he sold it under the table to the Chinese?
Well, that would be a whole different situation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but you can't rule it out.
Yeah.
Because, it wasn't the Afghanis or the Taliban that occupied the base as soon as we left. It was the Chinese. So what if it was made to appear to be an abandonment, but underneath the table, it was actually sold to the Chinese? I believe.
Do you have proof of that, or is it just
just intuition about how things happen?
There's so much that's hidden under the table. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm not the only one that believes that. And I believe, we believe that the money from all of these ill-gotten gains went to Ukraine because that's where they hide their dirty money. And when Putin invaded Ukraine, the banking systems were the first to go down. So all the dirty money is locked in cyber limbo because the banking systems are still down. The Ukraine is not a part of NATO. So why are we pouring so much money to get it back? Think about that.
I think it's a proxy country of our deep state, quite honestly. And when you look at the 23 other countries in Central and South America, you're talking all kinds of proxy countries that really, I think a lot of the countries don't actually exist in the classical way we look at it. I think that that what we've been sold probably isn't exactly true anymore. It may have been at one time, but their whole goal of taking over the world through treaties and that sort of thing has really changed the landscape a lot. I try not to think about things as, how do I say it, geographical boundaries anymore, because they're misleading anymore.
And I heard your timer, so I know my timer's about to go off too. So, but I thank you so much for having me on again, and giving your audience an update. And from us here, I'm in our radio studios right now, by the way.
That's cool. What radio station? How are you doing your radio?
We're on iHeart Live 365, Teletalk Radio USA. Yeah, because we're coast to coast, and we're streaming radio right now on iHeart. And so, if you want some good holiday music, tune in. We're playing it all. And
that's very cool. Well, I'll post it. If you send me the link on that, I'll post that out there, and then we'll tune in to you. So that's very cool. Well, Troy, thank you so much for being on today. I'm going to go ahead and have you back on. And remember, everybody, it's like so many of us are coming together to fight this in unconventional ways and taking the power back to the people. But, when President Trump said we're giving it back to the people, well, the people have to be willing to take that and to take that job and to do our duty as Americans, and not just sit back like baby birds waiting for the food to fall in our mouth, but actually be the ones that are out there and, hunting and protecting and that sort of thing. It's important. Thank you so much, Troy, for being on. You're just delightful. And I'm always glad to talk to you, and God bless you and everything you do.
yes, ma'am. And happy holidays, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. And I look forward to having you come back on. We should have you back on again talking about processes, because I think that we need to educate everybody on that. So you have a great day. And I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back on with our citizen journalists and technocratic communism.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is the second day of December 2024 and I'm going to bring my buddies on right away. Good morning, Vicky. Good morning, Melissa. How you guys doing?
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Donna?
Good, really good. How's that baby doing?
She's good. You can see the bags under my eyes right now. I'm taking the 3 a.m. shift, so I'm up at 3 o'clock until 10 and let them sleep a little bit. So while they're still adjusting.
I love all the pictures. The baby pictures are wonderful.
Thank you. She is a blessing.
How fun, Grandma. Well, congratulations, Grandma. Well, how's everybody else doing this morning? How you doing, Vicky? And how you doing, Christina? How was your weekend?
I was busy. I worked all weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm alive. So that's the main point. I'm here. I'm kicking. We're
There
good.
you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same with me. I worked all weekend too. I'm on a research path. They're bringing it all together, and so I kind of get obsessive, when I start working like this.
I think that's what we do when we're on. We're like bird dogging a trail, and find new things. Find new things to go forward on. I think it's amazing. So anyhow, what's happening out there in the news, and what are your opinions on what you're seeing out there, guys? Let's start with Vicky.
What I'm seeing is rather disturbing. I think we're at the point of conversion. What I believe is happening is that they are converting the economic basis of the basis of our economic system to a carbon credit system. And as you think your way through it, it's really pretty psychotic. All of this is connected to radical environmentalism. So we have like two things that are going on: radical environmentalism, and of course the industries that we need to have an economy. And they are kind of, I don't know if they're at war with each other or if they are working together. But the solution to the problem of using too many resources and the corporations that want to use resources is to reduce the population to a level such that resource use is sustainable. I mean, that's simply the logic. And that's what I think the COVID thing was about. Population reduction in a variety of ways. And it's psychotic. So I think that's where we are.
Melissa, you want to go?
Yeah, so I agree with Vicky, and while she's talking, I'm thinking about what's going on in Western North Carolina. I've actually been off for a couple weeks and kind of taking a sabbatical from everything with the little one, and I jumped on yesterday. I called Christina. I was in tears just catching up and seeing we still have babies that are passing from hypothermia and we know that situation is all about the environmental plans and everything that they're doing. The second thing that I'm seeing, I don't know if I've talked on this yet, but Texas Representative Andy Hopper introduced a bill. It has been filed. We're going to need a grassroots effort on that one. They are pushing for the death penalty for individuals that essay little kids. So I will be speaking in Austin on that one. For those that don't know, I am a survivor from my own childhood. God has led me through several different situations I did not understand at the time, from law enforcement to the educational system and how they failed me. I'm going to be taking that to Austin next year if we can get the co-sponsors on this bill.
Yeah, I could go for that death penalty for
I think I agree.
Yeah.
And, it's very far-fetched at this point, but, like being a person that is healed from this, I can look at this, I guess you would say, more logically. And, I would say if we have a minor that has, let's say there was no, I don't even want to say this word, but the P word, the really bad. I mean, it's all bad, but actually going beyond touch, there's probably need to look more at chemical castration. But if we have a full,
You can say it. You can say any words on here you want.
I was going to say, if somebody penetrates a prepubescent child, depending on their age, if they're an adult, if they're over the age of 18, and I would say definitely over the age of 25, then yeah, we need to be looking at that death penalty. If they're younger, I'm going to say chemical castration might be the way. So I'm going to have a lot to talk on that one. I've already been debating with the psychological community here in Texas, and I'll send you the screenshots of that later for the next show. But this lady works for DPS, Department of Public Safety, with these people, and she's like, no, we don't need the death penalty. They'll just, off the children and this and that. I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, are you coming from a textbook background on this, or were you actually a victim? Because if you're coming from a secondhand knowledge textbook only point on this, you need to step aside. And she's like, I'm sorry you don't value what the psychological community has to offer on this, and I'm sorry you went through what you did. And I'm like, okay, let's back up a little bit, because I have my degree in psychology, so I can sit here and state we have good and bad in that community that's contributing to this. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and say this is one governmental agency that needs to be held to the fire. We also have law enforcement. Like when I was a child and they took us into the little room with the little dolls and wanted to videotape us, I was scared to death. And those officers promised me that my stepfather would not see the, what I put on that video. And of course they lied to me, and they did. They showed him anyway, which led to more abuse and a good decade for me of, rebelling and not trusting law enforcement. So I'm going to have a lot to say on that one as this one progresses.
Yeah, well, it goes back to that. Morning, Chris. It goes back to that protected classes of citizens, and the fact that we cannot just say, oh, this is my profession. I have all this schooling, which makes me okay, and I know everything, and nobody can question, can question what I'm doing or who I am and such. I mean, that is not okay, and that's how they hide.
Right, right.
They hide under these labels or who they affiliate with or whatever, and that's supposed to make it okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you know what? It's like I have so little respect right now, and I'm just going to say it, and I know it's going to piss a few people off, but I have so little respect for what I've seen in the counseling realm and the mental health realm, in the realm of because these little social justice warrior twerps want to get out there and tell everybody what to do and how damn smart they are and get into people's lives. But they go home at the end of the day and they don't have to deal with the fallout of their bad decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have zero respect for academics at this point.
I do too.
Because in all my research, all of the brain functions for what is happening to our country is put forward by academics. And where do they get their money to do this? Through grant funding. People or organizations like the Rockefeller Brothers, the Ford Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, just go down the list, and it's all the foundations, and they're funding particular ideas. So they are providing the guidance for what's happening to our country.
What's going to blow people's minds is how much the conservative area has absolutely been taken over.
Mm-hmm.
It's been taken over big time. So let's look at Hillsdale College. Who funds that? Let's look at the Seven Mountains churches, which is, I brought that up. I don't know if you guys saw what I posted, but I posted something of Kenneth Copeland slicing his hand and putting the blood in a jar, mixing it with somebody else's and drinking this. And,
Oh, God.
and it's like people don't understand. This is the one of those things when you look at the connections to the different churches and to, let's just say, the organizations that are corporate that put this crap out there to teach people, and they're all connected. Those churches, and then you can chase it back to Jim Baker and some of that kind of nonsense up here in Michigan, and they're all involved in this. People need to wake the hell up on what people are doing and what they're saying, and get real. We should absolutely get real about this, because just because you slap letters behind somebody's name, what is that proving? It's proving that they're part of the system, and they kowtowed to it in order to use those letters and numbers in many cases to lead people astray and say, look, I'm an expert. I know everything.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's going to be another flip that I can put on my story when I go to hit those chambers is, that's another aspect, this religious aspect, so if they want to hit me with that one, I'll be talking about how, hey, I told when I was 8 years old, and the church told my mother she would be going to hell if she divorced her husband for molesting us. So I have a whole
The devil
lot.
is in the church. I'm realizing that.
These leftists are, I'm the last person that they want up there. But
People
I'm
don't
going.
realize that, Melissa.
Well,
the Bible dwells in the church.
The Bible says, "Run from evil, run from sin," and that's what that was. You did the right thing, and for anyone to go against the word of God, well, there it is.
Yeah, but that goes into like these religious institutions. I mean, a lot of them are just in on it. I mean, I can tell you when I was a child that my stepfather through the faith was trying to pass me around to other people, so I get what these kids are going through. I mean, I have lived this, I've experienced it, I have forgiven, I have healed from it, and I am here to be God's warrior on this topic in Texas.
Amen.
Yeah, I love that. I want to show you, this is the video that I was talking about, and I want you to see this nonsense. Check this out.
That's the cutting.
Oh, God. What the fuck?
And I would do the same.
Is that?
It's Kenneth Copeland.
I fucking told you that man was the devil.
Watch this.
That's right. I want you to be this way every time you take communion, and you ought to take it a lot.
That's
A lot.
That is so sick. God.
Watch this.
That is a blood. Oh, no.
And watch the demon possession start.
Yes, sir. Now his blood is in my body. Yes, sir. It's in there. His blood is mixed with my blood.
That's a fucking blood covenant. This dude
Hey.
is the devil. I've been saying this shit.
We have been. We were talking about why in the heck did Trump have him speak? What was it, back in March? I mean, who made that decision? Goes back to his advisors that are probably involved in this.
Yeah, and I keep talking about those fucking advisors. I don't know who's advising Donald Trump right now, but he needs to get different people in there.
It's Howard Lutnick is the leader of Trump's transition team.
I need that video, Miss Donna. I need that
That's
video.
on my Telegram channel. And
And
so
I need that name again, Vicky.
Howard Lutnick, Lutnick.
well, then you want to go ahead.
He is the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. And Cantor Fitzgerald is a firm that trades in U.S. treasuries, and they're also involved in the carbon trading market. And as far as I'm concerned, he is a psychopath. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people that Trump has surrounded himself with this time are psychopaths, in my opinion.
Really. A lot of people are talking about it.
Well, I'm hoping that there's a strategy here and that they're going to get removed. And President Trump doesn't do endorsements the way the rest of us would think that they're done. He does them different. He directs attention. That's what he does, is he directs attention. So here, I'm going to bring another one up. You want to see the massive amount of nonsense and how these people are connected, even on a local level. You got to see this. So here's the guy that we watched become demon possessed after drinking blood from his hand and another guy's hand and calling it the blood of Christ. I want you to think about this. This is so demonic. Now watch. Now he's talking to another guy who is Dr. Avery Jackson. Watch this. Neurosurgeon in Michigan. Listen to how he bumpers for words. He can't even talk intelligibly.
The privilege and the honor of feeding your faith and preparing you to do it. Amen. Praise God.
Thank you. Since I was a little boy,
Yeah.
you come to Detroit, and we take the bus and see you whenever we could.
Now, don't tell me church is not important.
Yeah.
It's a local church that preaches and teaches faith and love and these powerful spiritual principles produce life-saving people like you. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing when you've got a policeman that's called to do that job. I had a young man that was a police officer, and almost the same thing came up on this ministry and so forth. And he said it happened to him over and over again. And he told me about one situation. He's sitting in the car with his partner, and this call came through. And he was sitting there praying in the spirit about it. And the Lord said, told him exactly where the guy was.
Wow.
And his partner says, we need to go. No, he said, just go over there and turn that. And there the guy was. And his life had been saved because he knew where the danger was. This is life in the faith lane.
What the hell is he even saying?
And all of us, we help people and save lives.
What is so he saves lives? Did you get that? We help each other and we save lives. No, you don't. God is the only one that saves lives. People do not save lives. We serve people. What an abomination.
And turning a corner and going down a street and catching a criminal does not save you or you do not become saved by Christ that way. You know, you have to ask, you got to go to him. You know, you don't.
I told you guys about that.
That's such a bullshit. I wish Jonathan Cahn could see this, because Jonathan Cahn was on his show, and I wish he could see this. I wish there's a way in which we could take that and put it on Jonathan Cahn's, group, the people that follow him. If there's a way we can put that on the thread of Jonathan Cahn's followers, so that Jonathan Cahn and his followers can see that.
So my first impression on that, have y'all heard of the Christian political group called The Family?
No.
Yeah, they're in Washington, D.C., right?
I think so. So I believe it's on either Prime or Netflix. There's a documentary on it, and that was my first impression. They're like a major far-right Christian nationalist group that's been highly involved in the political realm for some time. And it was interesting to me because when I worked for the New Mexico GOP, at the end of the credits on one of the films is the New Mexico GOP chairman. So I would admit that I think we might need to review that documentary and kind of look at that, because apparently a lot of the politicians are involved in that, and it's very cult-like, and his behavior there was very cult-like.
Yeah, I came up when I searched it. It said the Family DC cult.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like to mention something that I heard earlier, just before we got to this point. You were talking about carbon trading, that this person is involved in carbon trading. They consider you and I to be carbon.
Yes, that's
we
exactly
are,
right.
and so they expect, they think that we're stupid and that we don't know that, and that we don't know what the name of that whatever that is, carbon trading company, whatever committee, whatever that is. They don't know that we know that that's people trading. They're trading people.
You know, yeah. One video that I seem to have lost, but that was very, very interesting. Do you remember that shooting in Aurora, Colorado?
Yep.
Yeah.
The young guy, I think he was dressed up like Batman and went into a theater.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I listened to all of the interviews with him. And right in the middle, there was one part where he talked about how and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember his exact words, but in essence, what he was saying was that the reduction in population meant that there would be more resources for other people. So he took it upon himself to reduce the population in Aurora at that theater. That's what his objective was. He was trying to earn carbon credits.
Oh, so this is going to be where this is going to go, as people are going to see others as reducing. So they're going to sit back and watch us kill each other now, is what their game is.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, because they've gotten us to a point of greed. They feel so much that we're willing to take each other out for bonus points.
Absolutely. Oh my God. There was a natural progression that was going to go this way. I'm sorry, but it was going to go in this direction because, you know, when you look at how people see each other as conquest and or competition, that's the core of this is seeing people as non-human and being able to, it's like living in a real video game in a lot of people's minds. I got to win. I got to be right. I got to be first. I gotta type of stuff. And it's instead of saying, you know what, we're here to serve.
Yeah, no, forget all that. Forget all of the
Crazy
good things that you might have thought our society was about. We have been overtaken by psychopaths. And the system that they are converting us to incentivizes destruction. As a matter of fact, that's a title that I was going to use at some point. Grant money is the hidden hand of destruction. Absolutely. You know how they talk about capitalism being the hidden hand and all of that crap? Well,
they're capitalizing on us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Consider that there's a bounty on your head.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're part of it. Yeah.
It's like we're being farmed. You know, it's like we're being farmed and that we're traded as cattle right now. And so now that we're equated as carbon, they can use that to either traffic us or use us for, I don't know. Look at how much money they were getting by killing people in the hospitals with COVID, because they were killing people in the hospitals. Those hospitals were killing fields. They did the same thing in World War II, you know, and I actually had a discussion when my mom was in the hospital with a nurse there, and all of a sudden she goes triggered and runs down the hallway. I swear to you, this happened. I was talking about it and saying, you know what, this is nonsense, because they came after me while I was there. This is just since August of this year. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but there's enough of us out there that know that people were being killed and executed in the hospitals by some of these injections and the remdesivir and all this other stuff that was in there.
Alaska, for example, was one of the states that got over $300,000 per person. You wouldn't believe the money that these hospitals made off individually.
For killing them.
For killing people.
And then
Pfizer just put some directors from State Street and Vanguard on their board. So we know where this is going. And if you speak out about it, you end up fucking dead. So I think at this point, a lot of us, I am so shocked by the level of people that do not understand what is going on right now.
I think Ken Paxton understands. I just sent Donna a link. He is suing BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street.
I've seen that.
Yeah, Ken Paxton is good. I really like him. He's the one who should have been appointed as the Attorney General.
Attorney General, I agree.
And ever since our Constitution, they corporatized it, right? We're a corporation, right? So we must be the product
Yes,
for
exactly. We're
That's
the
right.
sale,
product.
for sale, to take off a shelf, or to go ahead and eliminate, or to piece out this corporation. To dismantle the corporation means to get rid of the population, because we are what make up the corporation. Uh, we are the physical piece of, we are the brick and mortar. We are the store. So to take all the bricks out of the store means that they will have more freedom for themselves to rule the way they want.
Right.
And we as Americans need to stand up, and we need to get this message out, that because this is a process that's been going on ever since I've gotten my polio vaccine when I was a baby. Who the fuck gives babies vaccines, right?
Exactly. Unless you want bad things to happen to all the children in the world, which is why all of our children have autism right now.
Yeah,
I
I'll tell
didn't
you.
give my kids vaccines, and they don't have autism, and they're going after master's degrees, but all of their fucking friends can't cope now. It's
I'll tell you from
ridiculous.
the new baby perspective, we have been fighting here in Texas to find a doctor that's going to give my daughter, her vaccine choice. There's so many reports here with young mothers where they're going to see a pediatrician, and that pediatrician is still denying them care if they don't get the vaccines that they suggest.
Well,
Oh, they get all
that-
bent on shape because you're not following the program.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if you're not going to do that, then blah, blah, blah. And so what happened with the patient supposedly having control of their own health care? That went all out the window when COVID came in. They absolutely took that away from everyone. And it's not patient centric at all. It's put you on the rat race, on the, the hamster wheel that goes around, and you stay on that track. And that's what the plan is right there until they finally kill you.
well, that's
Yeah.
because they turned it over to public health. Public health is environmental health, and they are the ones that actually can use the law to put you under martial law authority.
Uh-huh.
Well, look at the
but it's
DNR.
supposed to be for communicable diseases. But the thing is that, and I learned this in the 7th grade in 1962. The reason why they didn't have vaccines for viruses is because viruses mutate. And I never forgot that. So, in the early 70s, when there was some kind of pig flu or some damn thing, I didn't get a virus. I have never gotten an inoculation for a virus because they mutate. So, when this whole COVID thing came up, there was no way in hell I was going to take their vaccine.
And another point is that, Dr. Fauci himself, this is where they hit the hypocrisy comes in their science, is that on one side they're saying you have to take it or else, and then they tell you also that during this mutation, yeah, it's a change, but every time it mutates and changes form from the original, it gets weaker. And then when it mutates again, it gets weaker. And then it gets weaker. And then it gets weaker. Right? So they turn around and they sell you the point that, oh, COVID, SARS virus 2, which came from what? Number one, is stronger than number one. It's a pandemic. The number two is a pandemic, stronger, killing everybody. But SARS 1 did not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no question. They're
These are
engineering.
Dr. Mengeles. These
Yeah.
are Dr. Mengeles 2.0, I call them. This
Uh-huh.
is Germany, World War II,
Right.
all over again, with a bunch of psychopaths that make themselves doctors and like to see how far down they can cut before you scream. These are people using America and Americans as a big experiment. When they say it's an experiment, that's exactly what they mean, because they're experimenting on us scientifically. They're injecting us with shit that's killing us and turning us into, having these autoimmune diseases, epilepsy, autism, all kinds of things that come out not immediately, but they come out like 3 or 4 years later, right? Or
Right.
or 12 years later, where guess what? We don't know where that came from.
Well, I tell
You
you.
can't track it back, right? It's got no trail because it comes out 12 years later in the child's life.
Well,
And
I tell
so,
you,
you know what the word epilepsy means? Do you know what it means?
No.
Unknown cause.
Wow. Well, Richard Hirschman has been on here before on BNN before, and he's an embalmer. And he came out last week that said this should be sobering to everyone out there, that what they discovered is that this is a folded protein that is creating the clots in the fibrous clots. He said we're finding that it's a folded protein. You know what that means?
No.
That means that it's the same mechanism as mad cow disease or Kuru. It's a folded protein disease, is what he's saying. If that's the case, that could be a 10-year, 12-year, 50-year demise. But there's no cure for this, which makes me think when he came out on that, if this is a folded protein disease, it like Kuru comes through and mad cow disease, it comes through tissue of mad cow disease of either the animal or humans in Kuru.
So what you're saying
what the
is
hell they got in these vaccines that would have a folded protein that behaves like Kuru that you'll see pass through cannibals and crap.
That's why Gates wants to inject our cattle.
So what you're saying is that if these people took this vaccine, they got a 10 to 15 year lifespan?
Well, I don't know. I mean, mad cow can take 50 years to come out. It's a ticking time bomb is what it is. If he's correct, it's a ticking time bomb, and they don't have a cure for this.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna vary on the manufacturer and where it was produced, because like we've seen, there are some batches of the vaccine from certain manufacturers that have a higher mortality rate. So I think it's going to be kind of a catch and miss. But yeah, you're right on that. But I think it's going to go down to who produced them. Was it the J&J? Was it the Moderna, the Pfizer, and all these different batches? Because I think when Trump put that warp speed into place, it caught them a little bit off guard, and so they probably didn't get everything into all of them that they wanted.
Yeah, that's what I think too. That's exactly what I think.
Well, I think this is something that, I believe that God provides answers to everything if we look for them. And we're going to have to figure out some sort of a cure for this, and not just mess around with this right now, because there's always something that God provides to fix things that we mess up. He's a redeemer, right? And our focus needs to be on this, because we're going to see a lot of people die from this, in my opinion. If what Hirschman is saying, we got a problem, and it's not just a small one. And the other thing is that, can you pick this up in other ways, and not just on, not just through the vaccine? To your point, Chris, is it coming through the food? When you have like blue tongue and some of the other problem diseases in deer, you can get that from the ground. You can get that from the plants where the animals are. And so, I think all of us need to realize that this is something that could really become a large problem for all of us, not just the ones that decided to take the vaccine. And quite honestly, there was so much brainwashing and fear mongering that in my opinion, unless you were really close to God, you probably were going to be sucked into the fear factor of this. And that goes forward from here going forward. If you are feeling fear, they got you already. Right. And you've got to walk away from this satanic manipulation of people, because that's exactly what's going on here. I'm going to have to leave here in just a few minutes. If you guys want to continue on, that's fine. I love you all very much. But we can either end it here, or we can continue this another day. Or if you want to continue talking, I'll just let the camera roll and I'll have somebody else stop it.
It's up to you guys. Doesn't matter to me.
I need to jump back in with Little Miss.
Well, here you go. Here's a Vicky article right here. IBM and Dr. Mengele. This never stopped, people. They're the same psychopaths are doing the same thing. They just rebranded it.
Yes. I have this suspicion that the United States actually lost World War II.
I think so too.
I think so too.
And it was a plan called Harry Dexter White's plan. He was in the Treasury Department, I think. But they called it the Morgenthau Plan for Germany. But I think actually the Morgenthau Plan was for the United States. And they built that national security state, which hides what they're doing behind closed doors. I mean, why do we have a national security state? What do they have to hide from us?
See, it's my understanding that after the war, that their top scientists actually were all brought over here to the United States. So
they were.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So, guys, I tell you what, let's pick this up later. I love you all very, very much. And we'll talk about this when we get off and bring this back later. Thank you so very much, Father God, for bringing us together. We love you so much, and we know that you can equip us to do anything that's in front of us that we need to do. Please keep our minds safe and sound as we walk forward into the coming days, because we know that we are probably going to be facing some difficult situations, but we know we can lean on you, and you're always there with us. So thank you so very much for staying with us. Bless everyone, and let your favor rest mightily upon the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. And that's part of the show, boys and girls. Go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who ever non-conceded in the United States, history of the United States of America. And I want to have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, about this with cowboy boots on. So
Christina's heart.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Here we go, guys. God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day today. And if you don't have a good example, be one. And I'll be back on tomorrow. And I don't remember who I have on tomorrow. Well, that's okay. So tune in and you'll find out. And lots of guests on this week. Have a great day, and we'll be talking to you all later.
Okay. Thank you. I'm taking off. I've got work to do. So
bye-bye.
All righty.